Honey, you have a battle wound. What's going on there? Just a mosquito?
Probably. One of many. You just have to have the right mindset. It's going to be mosquito bites.
Well, it's mosquito season. We started our cordwood on our house finally. So this is what we got done today. I would say 1/3 of one section of wall. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those two add up to 10. So 20 walls. Takes about 3 weeks for, I'd say about 3 weeks for this to dry. But we've never done it with a full mortar bead. We've only done it on the sauna when there's 2 mortar beads and insulation in between, sawdust and lime. So this is 1 solid mortar bead. And we're putting dimples in it, so when we leave for the next day, the fresh mortar will go inside those dimples. That was my idea. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but anyway, that's what we're doing. So she's straining out the slurried paper for tomorrow so we can get started making mortar. And I am sanding one side of these logs. So those are sanded. We're using the sanded side. We're also making it more difficult on ourselves by putting in fence staples. Pretty much 2 in each one, unless it's like a round, then we're doing 2. Or I mean 3 to for that mortar to grab a hold of, just to make it stronger. The last batch, the 3rd batch, right?
I think we're pretty much done on this side. Okay.
We're gonna pretty much stop on this side and work on the other side of the window. So you're gonna leave, when you leave an area for the next day, you don't want to cover it with mortar. You want to keep the tops of the wood exposed for the next day's mortar. So I could fill in a little bit mortar back here, kind of keep from here to here mortar. You know, you can round it a little bit, but then you would want to keep the top open. So I kind of rounded it here. I didn't do anything here. The backside it is as important. I want this to be a nice clean edge though for tomorrow, so that when you come and do your next mortar, it blends in better, because you want to try to blend it in for the next day. All this needs to be pointed, so then it turns out nice and smooth. That's drying, that's why it's discolored. This one's, well, they're all drying, but they brighten up as they dry. So now we're going to work on the other side of the window. Then you want to puzzle piece these logs in and try to keep the mortar beads, you know, around inch or 2 inch beads. So like I say, it's kind of a puzzle piece. So right here maybe we'll do a triangle will come in there, and then here maybe it'll be a more of a blocky bottom and a straight side. And then when you plop the mortar in, you want to try to get rid of the voids. So I kind of snowball it and then pack it in there, and sometimes you got to push with your finger to make sure it's all packed down. So if you have a bunch of voids, I think it's more liable that the mortar will crack. And then you try to get everything, all the mortar, like the same plane, but that's super hard. So I mean, it undulates and everything, but like this is a spot where if I had mortar in my hand, I would fill that in. Pack this side down. This needs to be filled in, so I could drag some over, or I could grab a clump and stick it in there. But like I say, that's hard to do. You end up with it's slightly wavy. But yeah, that's pretty much all we're doing. Keep on going up till we run out of mortar for the day. We got maybe another tote and a half of that, and then we'll be done. Then you see how dry it is, and you can start pointing it to make it look nice and smooth, and I can show you that, how we do that. And then you wait another half an hour or so and do it again final time. Keep your mortar covered, because after doing this for a couple hours, it dries out. So right now this is too dry. See how it's crumbly. So I just come and take a little bit of water. Whoop. Trying not to drop it. Kind of knead it in there, and maybe take the dry bottom stuff, flip it over the wet stuff. In the end, you want it to be kind of like Play-Doh. at least for this mortar recipe. This is a paper enhanced mortar. Towards the end, the mortar starts to dry out, so you just got to add a little water. So this is a double cordwood wall, so the backside, this is the backside, doesn't really matter as far as prettiness. It just has to be, you want to kind of push down against the log, make sure that the mortar's adhering good. Take like baseball, softball size clumps of mortar. And then you kind of layer it on the log so there's about an inch, inch and a half of mortar for your bead. And we'll probably go up about halfway on this log and then find a piece that fits in that space. So because this is double wall, and we'll finish the entire outer ring of the house this summer, and then next summer we'll do the inner wall because we won't have time to do both. And then we'll spray foam the backside of this entire wall.
This is the consistency we like. So when you pat it together, you just grab one and it stays how you do it. Okay, where are we going? Right here?
Right here. So then we'll get a log and we'll place it in there and see what we have to fill in. Take it out, kind of fill in, place it in there, push the mortar so it's nice and compact, and then add mortar to the face of it to get about, see, this is level. I don't like it to be level. I like it to be about a 1/4 inch proud, the logs. So some of this stuff will be pointed and pushed back. But it seems like some days I got it, some days I don't as far as mortaring. But in the end, it's not a big deal. When it's proud, you can sand it and stuff. Like in 10 years, let's say this gets a little discolored, I'll be able to sand it easier. But you, right now, you can push this back in. Sure. So then we're gonna use a round in this case. So then look at it, okay, we gotta fill in that triangle, pick it back up, put a couple blobs in there, and then set it back in. And you can see that she put it in and the crack was facing down. The circles, you want to put the crack pointing down so the water doesn't get trapped inside. So the water will hit that and run away from the log instead of inside of it. If you're doing a double cordwood wall, on the back side, I just like to take a gloved hand and with my finger or 2 fingers push on the mortar, and so it's nice and tight along the entire log, so there's no blanks or voids. Same thing along the edge of the wall, and especially underneath the windows, because anytime you're up underneath, sometimes if the mortar's too wet or whatever, it'll like slump down and pull away from the bottom of the window. So you want to really make sure you pack it good in there. So then the next step I like to do is just take a spoon and do the same thing on the side that you're gonna see. Push that mortar, make sure it's nice and tight along the entire log. And also what that does is makes the log stand out away from the mortar. You can see I already went through this stuff and did it. So I just go around and make sure you get the bottoms, because you'll notice that you'll come back when you're pointing and you'll have forgotten the bottom of a log, and there'll be, you know, black spaces below that. And again, the mortar may slump and you won't get a nice tight fit. And then my wife comes by with a bent butter knife, curved.
Best tool there is for it. Searched high and low for an old one of them.
And just smooths it out. And you gotta wait a certain amount of time to do that. And it's hard to make the blend in from the last day. This was actually mortared in, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. So the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be, because the harder it is. This mortar is really hard. If it was the next day, you could blend it in a tad bit better. But again, you want to tighten it around the logs, and then I like to get rid of these little ridges. You see that little ridge right there? And you can, you know, so you just take that and smooth that out. So this still isn't finished. To come back one more time and do this.
Sometimes.
Most times. And then it'll look perfect. And you'll end up with that. This mortar still has to dry. It's not completely dried. But it'll get nice and light colored like that. Another thing you can do at this stage is look down the wall at all your logs, and if you have one that's too far in, you know, and you need it to come out to be level with your window and your timber framing, you can actually take a hammer and just tap it, and that log will get pushed out and not wreck your mortar. You don't want to do that after you're pointing. You want to do it before you're pointing. But it'll get that one log to be level with the rest of them. So there's a way to fix that. Because I'm looking back on this wall, and there's a dip right here. A slight dip on these logs right here. So I should have whacked those and got them to be level. So this is after the first pointing, and then I'm just going to really fine tune it. These are the things you want to fix.